This is the third TOZO product that I am reviewing, and it's nice to see that their focus is on good sounding products. Thank you to TOZO for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into how these are built. The unboxing experience is fairly simple, but it does give you a sense of being premium. The box does have well printed information on it, which does make this seem like a more upmarket set of headphones. When you open it, you're greeted with an envelope that contains the literature. You get a 3.5mm to 3.5mm auxiliary cable for when you want to go wired, a nice long USB-A to USB-C cable for charging, and of course you get the HT2 headphones as well. Sadly, there is no case for these headphones. Moving on to the headphones, it's got a very neat matte finish all around and does feel as premium as it looks. You'll see the TOZO branding on both ear cups, which swivel inward so you can rest them on your collarbone when you're traveling and not listening to any media. The headband is adjustable and has a clicking sound when adjusted, and it does have markings for its adjustments as well. The headband does have a firm clamping force on my head and has a soft faux leather cushion which is quite soft and comfortable on the head. The ear pads on these headphones are also quite soft and have some form of memory foam, so are quite soft around the ears. This kind of material won't breathe very well, so you will get hot ears in hot and humid places. The right ear cup has the noise cancelling button, a microphone, the USB-C charging slot, a 3.5mm auxiliary port, volume down and up buttons, and the power button as well. These have a neat tactile sound and feel to them, which I prefer over having touch controls. These come with Bluetooth version 5.3 and don't have touch controls, which I am thankful for. I do prefer the more tactile controls which these have, and if you want to control the finer aspects of these headphones, you can do so via the TOZO app. In the app, you get the EQ controls, which I'll speak about in the chapter about sound, and you also get the active noise cancelling controls, which let you toggle between the few ANC modes it has. You get the usual noise cancelling mode, a transparency mode if you want to let in your surroundings, a wind noise reduction mode, a leisure mode, the normal mode switches ANC off, and the adaptive mode adapts to the environment you're in real time. You can go into the settings where you can update the headphones firmware and sort the functions in the app between ANC and EQ. When it comes to these headphones latency, now when you use it normally with any media, especially if you're watching videos or playing games, there is a very noticeable delay. So if you're very particular about having proper sync, you can always just plug in the cable and it will eliminate any sort of delay. But when it's on its Bluetooth mode, it does have a game mode. So you have to press and hold the noise cancelling button for about 1.5 or 2 seconds, and it'll tell you that game mode is on. Now with game mode, it does get better than what it is with it off for certain. But instead of me rambling on about how it performs with the latency mode, here's a quick demo to show you how it performs with gaming as well as with videos.
Good luck. Team deathmatch. We've lost the lead.
Game mode.
Reloading.
These come with 8mm dynamic drivers, support the SPC and AAC codecs, and have a frequency response of 20 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz.
Game mode.
That range in particular, and if you do intend on preserving your hearing, I wouldn't advise listening to this at 80% volume or higher. When it comes to its active noise cancelling, it is a good performer because it does eliminate fan motor noises, AC motor noises, and engine noises in general fairly well. But one thing I did notice while my studio door was open and I was testing the ANC modes, if there's anybody speaking outside of my room, the absolute mid-range of everybody's voice does tend to bleed in more than it would with other headphones. The higher range and lower range of anybody's voice is cut out fairly well. Now, no doubt it's not a droning noise. I do know that, but most other headphones don't let in this mid-range as much as this does. But instead of me rambling on about this, let me show you a quick demo as to how this would perform on an aircraft as well as a busy cafe.
ANC off. Pass through. ANC off. Pass through. ANC on.
So this set of headphones does have 3 microphones that are governing its active noise cancelling, and those same 3 microphones also contribute towards helping with its environmental noise cancelling. And of course, the environmental noise cancelling will help you for whenever you want to take phone calls. It should help isolate your voice over the noise around you. So if you do want to know how your voice would carry over in a crowded setting over to your recipient, here's a quick demo to show you how it will perform. So I'm calling you from the usual busy street. I do all of my call tests from, just to give you a sense of how much noise these headphones are going to be battling. So of course you will see some two-wheelers, four-wheelers behind me, and you will see some tankers, and you might hear occasional pressure horns as well. And over my left shoulder there is some construction work going on as well. So I have been on the camera microphone all this time, and I will switch over to the TOZO HT2 microphones right about now. So these headphones do have 3 microphones, and these do help with the active noise cancelling, of course. And I do see one opening somewhere on the right ear cup, which will be more directed towards my voice to be able to hear my voice a bit clearer. But it'll be interesting to see how well these manage to isolate my voice over all the noise. So this is where you sit in the reviewer seat, and you get to decide whether or not you like this tonal quality of my voice being carried over to you, because this is how your recipients will hear you. So one thing I do like to do, which I'll do right now, is I like to toggle between all the active noise cancelling modes that are available in the app, just to see if shifting between ANC modes, there is added stress on the environmental noise cancelling algorithm as well. So I am on the noise cancelling algorithm right now, and I'll switch over to the transparency mode now. So I can hear everything coming in right now, and for some reason, things do seem a little off balance. I'm hearing more things on the left side than the right. This seems sort of muted. So that's the difference that I'm experiencing with ANC. And I'll switch over to the reduce wind noise now. So this has eliminated that lower rumble that the transparency mode was bringing in, and it seems a little more balanced. It is balanced between 2 channels, and it's not more towards one side. And I'll switch over to the leisure mode now. It seems almost similar, but some frequencies are being let in, some very high frequencies. Normal mode, of course, switches the ANC off. So right now it is just in passive mode, which in fact, I have to say the isolation on this by itself without the active noise cancelling is pretty good. And the adaptive mode will adjust to the environment. So right now, I don't see too much traffic. So it is letting in a bit of noise. But anyway, going back to the noise cancelling mode, this does seem to let in that higher frequency that I did mention. That actually not higher frequency; it's more of a mid range, a mid higher range that creeps in. So I can hear a lot of the sort of swooshing of frequencies coming from a lot of the vehicles over here, and generally the environment. I think if there were a breeze and the leaves were rustling on the trees, I'd be able to hear them with the noise cancelling on. So anyway, this has been the demo for you. So you'd be the best judge to decide whether or not you like the overall tonal quality of my voice that's being carried over to you, because you are sitting in the recipient's seat. And I do hope that this call demo has given you a better understanding of these headphones. And of course, I will see you back at the studio. These headphones come with 40mm dynamic drivers, support the SPC and AAC codecs, and have a frequency response of 16 Hz all the way up to 45 kHz. And when it comes to a volume front with these, well, it's not exactly a very linear volume control with these, because from 0 to about 50, it's a very slow and gradual increase. And then after 50 to above 50, it just suddenly spikes very quickly. So I'd say down low at maybe 25, 20, even maybe 30%. It's not as rounded as I'd like it to be. It sounds kind of flat and tinny. When you start approaching about 35 to 45%, it does get fuller and it is a lot more fun here. I'd say 50% is a good sweet spot with these headphones, but when you start going past 55, should I say maybe 65, 70% is when it gets a little too loud for me. So again, if you do want to preserve your hearing in the long run, I wouldn't recommend listening to this set of headphones beyond 75% over longer periods of time. When it comes to a soundstage, it's like most other closed back headphones in this price range. You do have good left and right separation and a well-centered phantom channel, and the expanse sits at around where the headphones do sit. It doesn't really push that soundstage a bubble beyond that, but I'd say it's still a pretty good performer because depending on the recording you're listening to, the expanse and separation between each channel is captured fairly well in playback. On an imaging front, this is surprisingly well detailed. In fact, there is very good separation between the highs, mids and lows, and more so, there's good separation between vocals and instruments in the mid-range. So if you do prefer zoning in onto certain nuances whenever you listen to any of your music, you can do that fairly easily with these headphones. High frequencies do have an elevation straight out of the box, and it does have a slight aggressive stance to it. So if you are sensitive to this range, I can see it being a little fatiguing. This elevation is certainly going to bother high frequency sensitive ears, but thankfully you do have an EQ you can play around with, which I'll speak about at the end of this chapter. This range does get a little easier on the ears with lower volumes and does have a lot of detail here. The range that's a little too elevated is where cymbals and percussive instruments exist. So if you're listening to something acoustic with energetic highs, this range can get slightly uncomfortable. However, if you aren't high frequency sensitive, the detail that comes out of this range is impressive for a set of headphones that sit in this price range. Listening to Dave Matthews perform So Damn Lucky, there's a lot going on in this range with this track, and you sure can hear absolutely everything that's played here without missing details in the music. A slight dip in the treble range with the manual EQ does make things much easier on my ear, and I'm glad they've got a manual EQ inbuilt into their app for better control. Mid frequencies do have a slight recess compared to the highs, but they are forward enough so you won't miss out on any lyrics. There's a good amount of separation here, so even if you're listening to male and female vocals harmonize, it's fairly easy to focus in on each voice. Separation between instruments is good as well, which is very impressive for a set of headphones that cost as much as these. There is a slight recess in the lower mid region, so some vocals can seem to be on the thinner side, but it's not too aggressively pulled back, so is still enjoyable. Listening to John Mayer perform Assassin, there's a good amount of harmonizing in the background of this track, and it's fairly easy to focus in on every element of his voice as well as the background singers. That ability to separate as well as it does is a plus point here. Low frequencies is where these headphones come into their own. It's large, enthusiastic, and these are very keen to play back heavy bass. Bass enthusiasm with these headphones seems to be very reliant on the volume output, so can lose its largeness at lower volumes. 50 to 60% volume is where this is fun to listen to. It does have a sense of tightness and structure to it at higher volumes instead of being bloated, which again is surprising to experience on a set of headphones that cost as much as these. The upper and mid bass does have an elevation in its tuning to be able to sound as large as it does, but the sub bass does have slightly more elevation, making some EDM tracks have a nice sounding rumble to their bass lines. Listening to Lean On by Major Lazer, this range stands like a bouncer outside a nightclub. It's large and can be intimidating, but only with higher volumes. At lower volumes, it's more like an underaged boy trying to get into the same nightclub. In other words, these aren't the most dynamic sounding headphones out there. The sound that I've spoken about is straight out of the box, so if you do want to tweak these headphones sound a little bit, thankfully TOZO does offer a manual EQ within the app, and it is fairly impressive because it is a 10-band EQ with a plus minus 5 dB gain, so you can really fine-tune things. Now if you don't want to do the fine-tuning and you'd rather use presets, TOZO's included 15 different presets with the app, which are Bass Plus, which does as it says and cranks up the lower range by quite a bit. I can see bass enthusiasts enjoying this setting, but the mids and detail do get a little eaten into with this. Bass minus drops lower and mid-lower frequencies, so you can get a sense of better resolution. Classical gives a boost where classical music would need it, but it can also sound fun with other genres of music too, if you're okay with very recessed sounding mids. Dance is a fun tuning for EDM with more emphasis in the sub-lows. The upper lows are pulled away, so you won't get a kick from acoustic instruments here, and the highs aren't going to hurt your ears thanks to it being rolled off. Deep seems like it will be ideal for audiobooks and podcasts podcasts since its mid-range elevated, but the dip in highs will ensure this tuning won't get sibilant. Hip-hop adds a little bit of clarity without getting shouty and does maintain a good amount of bass. Jazz works best with jazz and blues but is also a fun tuning for heavier music. The recess in the mids might leave you wanting if you want to enjoy vocals. Original does get a lot of boost in the mids and highs, which can make these sound more on the sibilant side. This can also be used for audiobooks and podcasts. Piano works well for acoustic music or just an easier listening experience if you're okay with a flat bass response. Pop has an elevation in the mids and upper bass region which would make it a fun listen for music from the 90s and 2000s, earning it the ideal name for this tuning. R&B has quite the elevation in the bass and sub-bass regions as well as the upper mids and highs with a recess in the mids. I'm not a fan of lows that are boosted this much, but I'm sure bass enthusiasts will enjoy this tuning. Rock cleans things up a little compared to the last EQ. It doesn't strain the ear with the lower frequencies that the R&B tuning did. Vocal focuses on pushing out the mid-range and it does it well. Separation with independent vocals and harmonies stand out better with this tuning. Treble Plus does as it says and boosts the highs, making it sound a little crisper but might bother high frequency sensitive ears. And Treble Minus is almost the exact opposite of the last tuning but can sound quite flat with emphasized lows. So it can sound as if your music is drowning in detail with this preset. You can use the provided cable to plug in for whenever you do want to listen to anything cabled. Now the thing is, as soon as you plug the cable in, these things just switch off. They go completely passive. So as soon as you plug it in, there's no Bluetooth, there's no active noise cancelling, and it just will drive off whatever device you're playing or listening to. So you plug it into your phone or you plug it into your music player, and the way it sounds will be governed a lot by that specific device. I plugged these into my portable setup and was happy to see that they do get a little cleaner sounding, and those highs that could be a little too bright for some people seems to mellow out. But it could be because of the DAC and amp that I connected to these. It does sound a lot more natural when you play high-res music through it, and honestly, considering how much these cost, these are really good performers, especially when it comes to separation and detail. So to sum up, on a build front, I think these are put together very well. In fact, when I first saw these, I did think that these looked a lot like the Sony WH-1000 XM4. It seems to have taken a lot of styling cues from there. The overall matte finish, I'd say, is very well executed, and these are very comfortable to wear. But the one thing I don't like with these kind of headphones, especially if you're living in a more hot and humid place, your ears are going to get very hot and sweaty. So ideally, these should be used in an environment that's much cooler, be it wherever you stay or even in an air-conditioned office or home. On a feature front, it's got what you need. It's got Bluetooth version 5.3. It's fairly simple. It's not flamboyant with too much going on in the app. It only really lets you update the firmware in the settings. You can play around with the ANC modes via the app. And of course, you do get the EQ. Now, I think the most valuable thing within the app is the EQ, because the ANC modes you can toggle through 3 different modes when it comes to using the button. But I like that it doesn't pull you towards the app because it lets you connect with your media that much more. I also like the fact that it doesn't have touch controls, because at least a few touch control devices that I've used in the past, sometimes it doesn't respond or it doesn't really accept certain gestures at certain points in time. You can't go wrong with a tactile button. You feel it, you hear it, you know it's going to respond, and it will respond. I've not had any issues with any headphones or earphones that have had tactile buttons. So I'm really glad that TOZO's chosen to stick with tactile buttons. On an ANC front, I'd say it's pretty good because I can't hear any fans around me whenever it's on. The only negative I'd say about it is with other headphones, active noise cancelling, I usually can't hear that mid-range, a person's mid-range voice booming when they're in another room. I can hear with these headphones. With other headphones, I haven't been able to. But then again, a lot of those headphones are in a slightly more expensive price bracket. So honestly, for what these are worth, the fact that they can perform as well as they do, I'd say is pretty good on an ANC front. And then how do they perform on a call front? Well, that's the part where I leave up to you to decide. You sit in the review seat and check out the call quality chapter. Head on back there. If you haven't seen it already, I have provided a demo of the call quality as to how your recipient will hear you. And on a sound front, honestly, I was very surprised with how well detailed this is. I'm not too comfortable with how rich it is in the highs. I think some people with high frequency sensitivities might find it a little too piercing, but thankfully you do have that 10-band equalizer which you can just pull down slightly in the higher range. So I found it a lot easier in the highs when I did that. But what leaves me more impressed than the highs and the mids and how big the bass is. In fact, the bass is quite huge. It is a heavy sounding set of headphones. It is a good performer with low frequencies. So if you do like heavy music, or even if you're watching a movie and you like the deep rumbles with explosions, I think it does fairly well there. But coming back to what I did like the most, the fact that it is able to separate instruments and vocals and the highs, mids and lows as well as it does is, well, I genuinely didn't expect it to do this. Usually with very affordable headphones, a lot of these things tend to merge into one another, where you can't really distinct between different ranges very well, or different voices or different instruments. This does very well, unless you really overload it. If there's too much information coming out of the driver, it can tend to sort of merge. The detail tends to sort of get a bit muddy. But all in all, it's a very good performer with a lot of the music that I did throw at it. Honestly, for something that costs as much as this, I think it sounds absolutely terrific. So coming to the price, well, at the time of recording this video, these do have a maximum retail price of about $79.99. But you can make these yours for about $44.99. So honestly, I think there might be some deals going on now and then, because I have seen the price fluctuate over the last few days online. So if you catch this at a good time where you do get a better deal than this, I'd say it's a pretty good deal. And these are very valuable headphones, especially when it comes to the way they sound. And if you don't want all the fancy features within apps, you want something that's simple and works without any hassle, I think this is a good set to go for, because there's not much to fidget with in the app. So it's just you, your headphones, and your music or the media that you will be consuming. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I do hope that I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.